In this video I'm going to talk about how to choose the correct older inexpensive Thinkpad laptop. Would I buy another kind of a laptop? Well, the only other one, I've had an Acer before and I wouldn't buy another Acer. I had all sorts of trouble trying to load other operating systems on it. I upgraded the BIOS on it and it changed its behaviour completely. So I can't recommend anything other than Thinkpads as far as running Linux goes. Although I did have some success with a MacBook. I think they're called MacBooks, aren't they? I did actually, if you wanted a white ThinkPad, you could get a MacBook and load Linux onto that. That seems to work quite well, although you don't have the two buttons on it, you only have the one button. You haven't got any right mouse button on. I found that you could live without that if you wanted to. But anyway, to stick to ThinkPads. And people are generally looking for a ThinkPad. But in my case, I say it's not possible to have only one ThinkPad. You really need two ThinkPads. And the reason for that is that you want a ThinkPad that you can sit next to and work to do your heavy lifting and your large screen and everything. You need that kind of a ThinkPad and fast processing and so on. Yet, if you're going to take a ThinkPad like this and put it on your lap, well, if you're sitting in a chair it's okay for a while. If you're lying in bed watching the YouTube videos or reading and studying on the internet, this kind of a laptop is not very good for that purpose. And so what I like to do is I like to have two. I have the one that I keep normally in the living room, like this, what I use here, and the other one I keep by my bedside. And the one I currently have there at the moment is this one, which is the X201. Now, I'm not at all happy with this laptop. I've only had it a week and I'm finding it very, very difficult to live with this trackpad, which is no good, and this screen, which is very narrow and seems to, I feel restricted. It's like living in a house with a low ceiling. And I'm also finding that there's so little design gone into the case and the keyboard that when you rest your hand on it, it has a sharp edge here, which is no good, and the keyboard enter key is very sharp also. And so I've changed my mind about whether I like this keyboard or not, mainly because of not the enter key, the down arrow key. Now, if you're browsing through web pages, generally, if you're like me, you're using the down arrow key all the time to scroll, otherwise you have to use the mouse. So the down arrow key, it's got the very tactile sense with the down arrow key. You're always touching it and stroking it. And you'll find with the classic Thinkpad keyboard, to stroke the down arrow key, it's a wonderful tactile experience. And here it's just, it's horrible. It's actually got a ridge on it, which is it's just not nice at all. And so, what will I do with my X230? I'll probably just add it to my collection, or it could be something that the visitors can use when they come to the house. I don't know. But what I've done is I've ordered an X201 to replace it, which fixes all of these issues. The trackpad, probably because it has the same track. What I will do a review on it when it comes. I'll do a head-to-head with this and the X201. And so but just to show you that a laptop of this size is very, very nice to use on your lap, okay? And you can lie in bed and use it and so on. Now, one nice thing about this particular, the X230, is it does have a keyboard backlight, which I don't know if you can see that, but this is also a very nice feature which we don't have in the later Thinkpads, earlier Thinkpads. Okay, now, as well as the bedside laptop, my bedside laptop used to double as my recording studio laptop. And I have a docking station that I put that in. Now I'll take the camera over there and I'll show you the arrangement, because since I replaced my bedside one, I now have three laptops. I have this one, the bedside one, and the recording studio one. I'll show you how that works, because it's rather good not to have to set your laptop up. And here it is here. It's a bit dark in here. Okay, so this is the recording studio. You can see we've got the audio thing there, and we've got the amplifiers and so on. I just keep the mixer inside the cupboard here. But it's very convenient to have it here, because I can play YouTube videos on here, and it's very easy just to turn this on, and I have my guitar here, and I can do recording and together with watch YouTube videos with good audio and play along with them. And so having the laptop permanently, I used to just unplug it in the docking station, but I found that I didn't bother using it because it wasn't actually right next to where I play the guitar. I had to second guess it. But now all I need to do is just close this, and can just sit there like that on power saving mode here. Doesn't use any power, and when I'm ready to use it, I can just open it up. Now, this used to be my bedside laptop as well, and the screen is very, very nice. In fact, it's a much better screen for use in that mode, but it's only got a very low volume speaker system and only mono sound. It has no touchpad, and what else is not so good about it? Oh, and it's a bit slow on doing YouTube videos and stuff like that. It's a bit borderline compared to something like an X201 would be, or the X230. The X230 is, if the X230 had this screen and keyboard, it would, and a trackpad, a decent trackpad, it would be a great machine. So we'll just have to see what happens when the X201 comes. Right. So we've talked about the requirements for this kind of laptop is weight. Weight is the really big factor, because it's got to be able to sit on your lap. And so that kind of limits you in terms of what size laptop you get. Now, I did try using a T410, which is kind of, I don't know, it's quite a bit heavier than this. And if you sit with this, it's not, it's a bit lighter than that. So the 4 series is the 14-inch. This is a 15-inch. And so it's possible to use this in bed. It becomes uncomfortable. It just becomes, you know, once you've got the option of having a X series for this, you'll generally use that in preference to this kind of a laptop. Now, that might change as you go up the range. You'll probably find that some of the T series models are now light enough to double for both purposes, for both video editing. Yet, to get to a quad-core CPU, you really need some substantial laptop, and I certainly believe that I will always have at least two Thinkpads. One that I do my video rendering on generally, one that I do just watching videos of that in bed, the one that I use for my recording studio, which is good, the one I have now is perfect for this, and also then I have to choose one to use on the boat. And I was going to use this one on the boat, but the trackpad wasn't good enough, so we wait until we get the X201C. But the other idea I have, because I didn't realise that the T400 was so good for video rendering, that I have this model, which is a little bit heavy, especially with this particular battery in it. It's got a heavy battery in it. That's the other thing, is you have to have a battery in most of these things. You can't really take them out. But yeah, it's substantially lighter without the battery. It's a possibility that this could be used on the boat, but I'm hoping that the X201 will give me the best of both worlds, because what this one has the lovely little trackpad here, and it's only small, and the X201 is also small like this, and maybe even smaller than this, but size is not an issue. You only move your finger a little bit in the centre of the thing. You don't want a big size, because the bigger it is, the further away the thumb and the finger have to be with the buttons, and so the smaller the trackpad, the better it is. It's only people when they're buying laptops and look at the trackpad think it should be big, or the bigger the better. It's not really. The bigger isn't the better, because if it's big it can get on in the way of your palm also. Okay, so when you're buying a laptop, you then have to consider the quality of the thing. And if you can come down, the best quality laptops, the ones that feel the best, are the 00 series, so that's X200, the X300, the X400, and the T400 and the T500. These are the nicest quality, plastic and feel and build quality. These are the nicest ones. And as soon as you get up to the 410, the quality starts to drop down on these ThinkPads, and all of the changes that happen after that are all bad design decisions. And the quality of the designers involved in the development of the ThinkPad has reduced over the years, and that may change in the modern ones. Some of the modern ones look rather nice, the latest ones look rather nice, and maybe they've come back to making nice laptops. Yet the industrial design of the models that follow, starting from the T410, 20, 30, 40, 50, up to that point, up to the P50. The P50 looks like it's starting to get a bit better, but I did notice that they have a very, very big palm rest cracking problem. The quality of the plastic is just not the same as it used to be. And so it's something to consider. And so I've really been put off, and I can't really comment. Because the laptop design is so poor, I've steered away from anything after the 410. In fact, the first laptop I got was a 410, and because I wasn't happy with the quality of it, I started to look back in time at previous laptops, and I started to get some very old laptops, and so I experienced the quality of laptops like the 600. It was the first old one I got, and I could see, my goodness, the quality was much better in the olden days, and screens were much better and everything. And so that started me on a quest to find the perfect ThinkPad, if you like. And I believe that perfect ThinkPad is in this, the T400 is, it's a pinnacle. I think this is a pinnacle of the IBM engineering, and I very much doubt if Lenovo had anything to do with the design of this laptop. There would have been laptops that were in the mix as they were coming through, and Lenovo would have picked up on all of that before it actually took over. And so they put their logo on it, but did they design it? I doubt it. And so, if you've got a laptop that's big and heavy, and you're only using it in position, like I am, then the bigger it is and the heavier it is, better really, because it's more stable and so on. And so, I like the 15-inch screens on my big one, and on my small one I would probably go for a 14-inch screen in an ultra-thin ultrabook type style, if I could afford that, or I would go for the 12-inch, which is on the X series. Yeah. The 15-inch screen is well worth having. You can live within a 14-inch, and I do software development and stuff like that. I find the 14 inches is okay. But ideally the 15 inch is what you want, and in this particular version you really want to try and get a quad core so that you've got your video editing, which all people are going to be doing who are interested in photography are going to be doing video editing and rendering eventually. It's just like the way things move. And so we're all going to have the same problem, wanting to render videos on our inexpensive, cheap laptops. And they're inexpensive, cheap laptops because we're frightened to death of buying a modern laptop and finding that it doesn't run the latest, it doesn't run. After just a few years we need to get another one or upgrade it to a different version of Windows or Apple or something. And with these older ones we're running Linux, and so they run fine. And there may come a time when this machine can't run Linux, but at that time many of the others in the range, right the way up to 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, these ones will also be unable to run it. And so I'm very, very glad to find out that the performance of these old laptops is the equal of some of the more modern laptops, and that in that case they've probably got a quite considerable life ahead of them, because it seems to me that computers are not getting any more powerful, not the consumer models anyway. Okay, so you have to be careful about what you buy, and not to pay too much money for it if you're going to buy a laptop. The most I've ever paid for a laptop, I think, was £100, which I think I paid for my first T410. And since then I've paid less than £100, normally less than £60 for all these laptops. In fact, this one here, I paid £60 for a W500 with 8 gigabytes of RAM, discrete graphics, and 2.8 gigahertz processor. And so now you have to be lucky to get laptops for that price, this type of laptop. But I'm just showing you what's possible and which models to look out for. So I would look out for the T series and the W series for your big computer, and I would actually look at the X series for your bed one, mobile one, traveling computer, if you like. Yeah, okay. Oh, and one last thing is batteries. If you're buying a used laptop, you normally have a choice, sometimes you have a choice in which one you choose as far as the size of the battery goes. And I would say that in all cases, in my experience, it's better to have the lighter laptop than it is to have a bigger battery. And I have a number of laptops that have the bigger batteries in them. And I'm not a big battery user. I'll just plug the laptop in and I generally just use the battery just to move around the house between power supplies, really. It's very rarely that I'm in a situation where I don't have the charger with me. If I go travelling, I'll take the charger, and most places you can arrange to plug in. And so you only need a couple of hours run time on any laptop. And so in my mind, it's better to have the lighter weight. You'll see this one has an ordinary battery, it's not sticking out like some of the others. And it's a lot more convenient package. It's nice and square, it's the original design concept without the large battery. Yeah. I got this for the bedside use, and it was rather nice to use. It was light, it had good speaker system on the front here, you could hear it, good volume, and everything was perfect except it's just so slow playing YouTube videos. I mean, it works most of the time, but swapping between videos and on the browser, it's just not really up to it. And so probably to get the equivalent of this model that worked, you'd have to get an X1 Carbon or something like that. And they were a little bit expensive, although probably for most people they have a bigger budget than I have. And as you can see, what happens if you start buying Thinkpads is you get hooked. Most people get hooked on Thinkpads. And so once you buy one or two or three, then you become a collector, I'm afraid. And well, there you go. I feel it's looking after the history is what I do. And I also like to, because I've had laptops all my life, it's nice sometimes to turn up and on and look at Windows 98 again, look at Windows 95 again, look at some of the other operating systems again. And I could do that. I can open a laptop and mess around with it and expose myself to what I did in the past, which is very good for the brain, because the brain doesn't like to leave things and not touch them again. And that if you do that, what happens with the brain is it just loses the life of that part of the brain, just goes. But it's very important just to keep refreshing the brain with whatever it's done in the past, just for a healthy brain and mind, really. I'll leave you on that note. Thank you for watching.